So, Adam Sizemore, you're with Bluegrass Cannabis,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now.
So Bluegrass Cannabis Company, my wife started working on that project around 2016 when she launched. She was having a lot of success with a nicotine brand at the time called Mr. Salty, which I'll go into a little bit of that later. Um, but in 2016, when she started getting successful in the nicotine industry, she started gearing towards trying to promote medical marijuana and the benefits of that in Kentucky. So for the past, roughly since 2016, 17, she has spent a lot of resources just trying to educate the public as well as lawmakers on the benefits of medical marijuana alongside many other organizations. Everybody wants to claim credit for legalizing medical marijuana in Kentucky, but there's 100 years of people all the way back to Gatewood, Galbraith, and
Yeah,
so
a
nobody
lot
gets
of
the
Gatewood.
credit. Nobody gets the credit because I mean I think if anybody ever got credit for medical marijuana in Kentucky, it'd definitely be Gatewood
Yeah,
because I can remember him on the side of the road as a kid, So,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
anyway, but kind of my
So,
side of the story behind it is I'm medically retired law enforcement. I retired from the federal prison system due to a lot of anxiety and depression issues.
mm,
That it wasn't the safest thing for me to be there and the inmates and staff. I was having panic attacks and things like that.
wow.
So we just kind of made the decision to medically retire. It cost us a lot financially to do that, but it was worth it to start focusing on my mental health. Um, Fast forward a little bit later, and the doctors finally let me start using marijuana as part of my treatment, and it brought me, it put me back to 85%. Let's say that. Let's say I'm not
Wow.
100%, but let's say it brought me from 40 or 50% of me to 80%. And right now
Wow.
I live with that. And so that's why I'm not giving medical advice. All right. And no
Right.
way, shape, or form are we giving any kind of medical advice. I'm just,
Yeah.
I guess the technical word would be anecdotal, whatever the FDA wants to call
Yeah.
it,
Sure.
evidence is that it helped me.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. And
It's working for you. It's
it's
working.
working for me. Yeah.
You're walking around evidence that that stuff is legit. That there's nothing wrong with that. It's great.
Right. Right. It ain't for everybody. So,
Right.
always, start slow. You can always add, never you can't take away. So the only advice I ever give anybody is just start off slow. But obviously check with your doctors because there are some things that it interacts with and this and that. So I won't get into all that. But
So Adam, I got to pull you back in. So was the leaving the federal prison system, that was that your pooch screw, or did you got a bigger pooch screw coming?
I got a
What we
bigger one
got?
coming. Let's
Okay,
say I
okay.
got a lot
Is
bigger
that
one
what?
coming. Yeah,
Okay,
we
what
could
is
we
that?
could have a whole topic of me
I know.
failing at the
Well,
prison.
that,
I
yeah.
was a 160-pound correctional officer. What I mean? I had a lot
Lord,
of
that's
failures at the prison. All right, so we could go down that rabbit hole for days.
yeah. I want to, but
So
let's get to the big
let's
pooch
get
screw.
back on track. Yeah. So the biggest pooch story, and I don't believe in failure. All right, so I have a hard time with this topic because nothing's a
Hey,
failure.
but
There's a time where you didn't succeed, but you learned
But
from it.
Adam, but that's what this thing is all about, is the fact that you could get the big, you could think you've screwed the pooch the biggest you could possibly screw it. And it's an opportunity if you see it right, right? You've been there.
Absolutely,
You know that.
absolutely,
That's what this is about.
absolutely. So like when my wife and I, um, when she started the company uh, Capital Vape in Frankfurt, and she started making e-liquids and things like that. Uh, One of the first things she did was she saved up money and this and that, and I helped her to go on a trade show, and I think it was St. Louis, Missouri. This was somewhere around 2015. So her and her business partner on a new company called Crystal Distribution. her and Brian and me and everybody got all geared up to go to this show like we were going to conquer the world. We had the brand new strawberry milk, 3 milligram, that just like the industry did. Like it just
Right.
looked easy for us, right? We was looking at what
Yeah.
everybody else was doing back then. It's the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
The FDA wasn't regulating anything. So anybody could start an e-liquid line and buy a label printer and you could basically make
You
the
got a
stuff in the
business.
back of you got a business. And look, there's a lot of people in the vape industry that went from being homeless to millionaires overnight. And that
Wow.
explains some other topics, maybe
Sure.
why there's some issues, in the advertising side of the vape industry. But our first trade show, just to get a long story short, we sold 0 bottles of juice. We didn't sell one to a retail customer. We didn't sell one to a distro
Mm.
customer. We didn't sell one to a wholesale customer. It was the most embarrassing loss of like $10,000. We
Yeah.
just assumed that if you threw money at something and made it look decent and went to a show, we thought that would turn into success, but it
No.
turned into we were just the guys knocking off the successful guys already.
Mm.
So the thing I learned from that is that we went back to the drawing board and said, okay, we're not providing a solution to a problem.
Mm.
All right, so that's where we looked at the industry in the nicotine industry at the time, and we said, how could we solve a problem? And at that time, the industry had left the billion smokers that still existed. And if anybody's interested, and sorry to plug something else, but there's a great documentary that just came out called Big Vape on Netflix. It just launched last week.
Oh, well.
It's one of the most neutral documentaries that I've seen on vaping. That kind of shows
Okay.
both sides. I don't agree with all of it, but it does give a good attempt at showing both sides.
Okay.
But at that time, the industry had kind of forgotten about the smokers, the billion people that were still smoking cigarettes, and they were
Mhm.
chasing at the time. I don't know if you remember, like, but it was just this big fad of like people blowing big clouds of smoke or vape.
Yeah.
Uh,
The bigger smoke,
yeah,
the better.
and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
me and my
Mhm.
wife always looked at that like, man, like that's not going to fly. That's not what this is about. This is
Right.
about
Right.
like people like us that were 2 pack a day smokers,
Yeah.
just trying to quit cigarettes. And
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
people that smoke cigarettes aren't really trying to advertise it. So,
Yeah.
so it
Look at
just
my
kind of
smoke.
happened. So just happenstance, that was when Juul had just launched the market. They were just absolutely exploding. You can learn about them. I mean, they were like, I think they made a new phrase for them called a decacorn or something,
Hmm.
because they are a decacorn. They called it, not a unicorn, because they were the fastest growing company in like the
Oh.
history of the
Oh.
world.
Oh. I see. Because it grew
Uh,
like it's not even a unicorn; it's a decacorn. I got you. Yeah.
right.
Wow. Hmm.
Um, and so I couldn't believe it, man. I saw this little device, and people were paying $15 for 3 pods. Me and my wife went to a football game. We went to a Bengals game with her partner Brian at the time, and he bought one of these because it was, whatever, he could just hit it and go on. And me and my wife were just infatuated by it, like what? Like people pay $15 for 3 milliliters of this stuff?
Yeah.
Like what a ripoff. So she had the idea, like her and Brian anyway had the idea of like what if we just made the stuff to put in these devices? And Brian and my wife started a little Reddit group and a Facebook group, and this was a long time ago. And the brand just exploded
Wow.
from back then. I mean, if anybody sees that, I mean, Juul had a 6 month waiting list to get their products back then. So it was just a perfect tidal wave,
Wow.
and we launched. Well, they launched at the right there at the same time as all that was happening, and it was just
Hmm.
they exploded onto the market and became one of the largest e-liquid companies in the country. For
Wow.
around 7 years, and that's what led to the Bluegrass Cannabis Company being formed.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And then was there something else? Did the tobacco? Did the vape company, the nicotine company, have an issue, or what's going on there?
Well, so the nicotine company, my wife and Brian responsibly represented the industry for a long time. Um,
Hmm.
they spent significant resources to file what's called a pre-market tobacco application. They submitted it to the FDA. The FDA denied all of their flavors except for tobacco. Uh, yeah, it's crazy. My wife, they spent a lot of money proving to the FDA that their products did not entice kids and
Hmm.
did not and did help people quit smoking, which was their mission. Because we were
Right.
all former smokers. Our mission was
Right.
never to attract kids.
Right.
There's enough smokers in the world, and there's enough money to go around in the vape industry that nobody needs the money from kids. Okay,
Right.
nobody. So
Right.
I get it's a problem, it needs addressed, but I don't agree with how it's being addressed. But so yeah, I mean, I was so they denied all their flavors. The Most of the industry started jumping through hoops, trying to stay legal, finding loopholes. My wife and Brian, they just didn't have the appetite for it. They were like,
Hmm.
look, the government shut us down. Let's just focus on moving forward. And
Hmm.
medical marijuana had always been their focus, as well as nicotine and getting people off cigarettes. But we'll see. They're I think Brian said they're resubmitting their FDA application, hopefully this week.
For the nicotine
And,
product.
correct. And yeah,
Okay.
look, I mean, the science is paid for.
Right.
Maybe a different. I don't know. Maybe something changes in the future, that these products can come back onto the market and they can go back to creating former smokers. But for right now, they've kind of just got Mr. Salty on limbo, and it sucks
Wow.
because it's hurting a lot of people.
Yeah.
It
It was a
shut
big
down a lot
brand.
of jobs. Yeah, it was a big brand. It
It
was a
was a
huge
huge brand.
brand. There's still a huge demand for it.
Yeah.
It's just, uh, my wife and Brian have always said they were going to play by the rules and follow what the FDA told them to do, and they have.
Smart. Smart.
Unfortunately, it didn't. A lot of these devices. Anyway, let's not get into the whole vape industry.
So but
Well,
bluegrass cannabis now in full swing. If somebody is, do you have an online retail? Is there a way that anybody can
yes,
get it
yes, yes,
that
yes,
way?
yes. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's
We'll
really
put the
hard
link.
not to
We'll
find
put
it.
the link below, but I just want to let you
So
tell us this real quick.
So a couple things real fast about Bluegrass Cannabis Company is they're quickly becoming known as a house for music and celebrities and just people that want to have fun, no
Hmm.
drama, hop into the vape industry or cannabis industry. So my wife just announced a partnership with Afro Man.
Awesome.
Yep, she's going to be they're launching that I think this week, or no, next
Because
week in
I
Tampa.
got high. Perfect.
Right, because I got
Perfect
high.
time.
I can't do it like he does. But so she's doing the brand with Afro Man. I'm probably announcing this before that she should let me, but let's just say that I think she's doing a tailgate party with Benny Snell at the UK Alabama game.
Really? Well,
Snell, yeah.
no.
And I think Benny's about to bring some serious thunder to the bluegrass. He's hard hitting Benny Snell, so I got a feeling he's about to bring a banger.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so we might
Interesting
be
stuff happening.
announced. Yeah, so that might be a little announcement that's coming, Kentucky related, and
It's
so a lot of things.
a little too soon to announce the Freak Daddy brand. It's just a little bit too soon.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd say we go straight to Freak Daddy mushrooms. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like, let's
hey,
just skip
why not?
cannabis and go straight to
I
mushrooms.
I think the next time we have you back, we should probably, Adam, just sample those as we begin and see what happens. That would be the best. It'd make quite the podcast.
I mean, I don't see how we can get around it.
But wait, right, we got to see what happens.
Okay,
Hey,
that
Adam.
sounds great. But those websites, check us out at
Yep.
bluegrassthc.com, or you could go to afrovape.net. Either of those websites, but bluegrassthc.com, that's us. Afrovape's our partner site. But we do have several brands for Kentucky, Old Smoky, Mary and Jane. Trust me, Old Smoky. I don't know if I can cuss on a podcast, but Appalachian Thunderfuck. I mean, come
Bring
on.
it on.
Old
Bring it on.
Smoky. Old
No
Smoky. It's
FCC.
inspired. Old Smoky's inspired by Kentucky. I'm from Clay County. My wife did this as kind of like a throwback to my heritage. So we have a brand called Old Smoky, and the three strains are Hazard Lights, Appalachian Thunderfuck, uh, and Kentucky Kush. So
There you
anybody
go.
in Kentucky, Bluegrass Cannabis Company's bringing the straight fire. Yes, we're proud of where we're from.
We're homeboys, my friend. We're homeboys.
Yes, we
We're
are.
Kentucky boys. Proud
Well,
of it.
I thank you so much for your opportunity to come on here
Yeah,
today.
my friend.
And
Adam,
anytime you want us, you let us know, man.
We'll launch the mushrooms next time.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, brother. You have a good day.
You too, my friend.